The grounds for impeachment, death, killing people. I don't think we fully appreciate that these Trump regime unlawful policies have already killed hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. If you factor in the destruction of USAID, I mean, could we be talking even more than hundreds of thousands of people who have actually died as a direct result of Trump regime policies? And I know it's in such large numbers that it doesn't really get that much attention. But, you know, when there are people talking about what do you impeach the guy for, and we're hearing from a lot of groups that are saying the impeachments should begin, people are saying, look, his policies has resulted in killing people. And I know in all of the craziness of Trump posting this and Trump posting that, it's hard to keep up with everything, especially when it comes to like the health space. But like, let's just talk about that for a moment. We can talk about anything, but just talk about like, and here's what I'll do. I'll pull back for a second. And just because I'm like, well, Ben, you're MeidasTouch, and people say you're liberal and this is a progressive. Well, okay. Let me play what Fox is saying then about the rising cases of measles. That's up 14,000% in the past year as a result of Trump policy and RFK policy or lack of policy. Here, play this clip.
More than 250 residents in Spartanburg County, South Carolina, are in quarantine due to a major measles outbreak. The state's Department of Health confirming 111 active cases. This marks the second U.S. measles surge this year, with 1,912 cases so far, a more than 14,000% increase from 2020. Fox News medical contributor Dr. Nicole Saphier joins us now with the latest. Good morning to you, Dr. Saphier.
Good morning, Ainsley.
Good morning. What is causing all of this? This is where I was born, in Spartanburg. This is very concerning.
You are causing you spreading lies and disinformation and telling people not to take vaccines. Quite literally, you and this propaganda machine that you've created and platforming a guy like this. So whether you talk about measles or, you know, again, remember, I mean, on an almost daily basis, Trump is spreading lies about hepatitis. Hepatitis. Who wakes up and goes, you know what I'm going to lie about today? I'm going to lie about hepatitis B, and I'm going to engage in conduct that's going to result in babies getting hepatitis B. Like why? Why would you do that? You don't know anything about this, but you remember Donald Trump gave a press conference where he said all hepatitis B is sexually transmitted, which is not true, but here, play this clip.
And hepatitis B is sexually transmitted. There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B. So I would say wait till the baby is 12 years old.
Yeah, but that's false. And I'll tell you why babies get hepatitis B vaccines, because since 1991, when newborns began getting the hepatitis B vaccine, we've seen a 99% reduction in pediatric infections. But then when Donald Trump is confronted with the truth, like you said, that hepatitis B vaccines shouldn't exist because it's always sexually transmitted, and you know, you're wrong about that. Watch, Trump refuses to acknowledge he's wrong. And I don't care. It should be done at 12 years old. Well, why would you say such? Again, I don't care. This isn't a Democrat, Republican, independent thing. Why are you doing this? Like, why? Here, play this clip.
Mr. President, you said that there is no reason to give newborn babies hepatitis B vaccines. But hepatitis B can be contracted not just through sexually transmitted diseases, sometimes from needles to open wounds. So when you say you feel, you know, is that appropriate to be telling?
I think it's absolutely appropriate. I think they should wait till they're 12 years old. Yes.
Why do you think that? Why? You're wrong. You are wrong, and you are killing people. And finally, I'll just show you all this, because I know there's so much news and information coming our way. But you all remember when the former top CDC officials testified before the Senate? I'll just show you what Susan Collins, Republican, just so I'm showing you the Republicans' questioning of CDC officials who were brought in there by Trump, and what they responded about the measles outbreak response by CDC and HHS. Here, play this clip.
Health.
Dr. Lowry, did HHS's response to the measles outbreak earlier this year differ from its response to other infectious disease outbreaks in your previous interactions with the department?
Yes, in several ways. First, I never briefed the secretary, as did the center director who oversaw measles never briefed the secretary. In an outbreak response, usually you would be briefing leadership. The second thing is he said things like vaccines had fetal parts, and I had to send a note to our leadership team to correct that misinformation.
Now I want to bring in Colette Delawalla, the CEO of Stand Up for Science. And your group, Stand Up for Science, has called for the impeachment of RFK Jr. and is based on a pretty simple theory. It's kind of what I laid out. The theory is you've engaged in behavior and you've engaged in policies that are killing people. And if killing people is not grounds for impeachment, then what's the point of having it? Talk to us about what your group is calling for.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ben, for having me and for drawing attention to this matter. So, a lot of people have called for his resignation. I think generally speaking, it's kind of a toothless endeavor because he's at the height of his power. So why would he just voluntarily, hand it over? And we're in this situation where, we're on the cusp of several pretty significant outbreaks. We've got the measles, bird flu is kind of creeping around in the back, and there are several others that are just kind of hanging out, waiting to have their moment. And if we don't have experts in the field, if we don't have the most world-renowned public health folks that are there and ready to help manage these problems, if you thought that COVID was bad and over 1 million people dying of COVID in the United States was bad, this is going to be so much worse. This is going to be very bad. And it's really, really difficult to explain to people, this is the danger that you're going to miss if we do this right. People tend to have a little bit more easy of a time when there's a tangible pain point, to drive for change. But we are just so close to a really critical point in terms of our public health as a nation. And not to mention the fact that by undoing this, hepatitis B, for example, the newborn vaccination, that's going to be something that we really experience that hits our healthcare infrastructure in 20 to 30 years. Yes, there will be infants that will die now of hepatitis B that, completely preventable. But this is also going to be something that sort of snowballs over the next decades. And we don't have the infrastructure to deal with that now. Why should we expect that we'll have it then if we're not going to be making changes?
Yeah. And the thing is that, during Trump's first administration, they did a lot to destroy that infrastructure. And now they're doing a lot to just completely eliminate it. What we've seen at the CDC, at HHS, and others, they've lost all their top people, so there's
it's bad.
not only is there zero preparation now for what happens when these things happen, they're affirmatively the spreaders. They are now causing the thing. They are the cause of the illness.
They're on team cancer. They're on team Hep B. They're on team meningitis. They're on team measles. These are not people who care about public health, who care about the health and well-being. And you know what? Good for RFK Jr. that he can do a pull-up at an airport. I'm happy for him. Good for him. That doesn't make him qualified to be the person that is steering the ship of our biomedical research and public health infrastructure. It just that's not a qualification that works in this situation.
Are you finding, although it's been a year of this, that people are at least more receptive to this message? The lies they tell, because illness is wrapped up in science, and sometimes science is complicated, and science is evolving, and you have a hypothesis, you test it, sometimes the tests are accurate. So it's a field that is easy for conspiracy theorists and those who want to weaponize it to kind of fester in and provide explanations that aren't accurate to ultimately get people towards your political position. Because if you give a science lecture, let's face it, it could be boring, it could be slow.
Science isn't your thing. It's not your thing.
So are people, though, beginning to say, well, maybe I should have cared about this, or are you seeing the same level of, festering conspiracy that we've seen before?
It's really interesting because the way that this has landed in the public has been completely different than what I anticipated. I thought that we would have to convince people that that RFK Jr., like that with him, there were grounds for impeachment. And that's actually not what we've really had to do at all. I think that there have been some of the like Maha folks that are, very like you could tell them anything and they're just going to believe what they're going to believe. But like generally speaking, I think that people agree. The issue is that they're really feeling disenfranchised and jaded and feeling like they can't do anything about it and feeling like very much like our government doesn't care about us. Our government doesn't care to take action. And I think that that's frankly, it's different than how I thought this was going to land. And also that's an easier thing to work with. Like we can give people actions that they can take. And we've seen that pressure works on our electeds.
What I find interesting is, so like Stand Up for Science is at the intersection of health and policy and the interplay between them. But just historically, the idea of authoritarians denying disease, denying epidemics, and actually spreading them. It's a trait of authoritarianism that we've seen. And based on kind of your observation, and Trump's a typical authoritarian, so it's just the mindset of the malignant narcissism that I alone can control it and fix it, and I'm going to talk about what I'm your cure, women, right? That's what it goes. Women, ladies, you don't know about Hep B. I'm going to cure your Hep B. Whatever.
I gotcha.
And it's like some sick stuff. And so what do you make of that, though? Because there seems to be that at play. And we saw that HIV AIDS originally when that started to be known, the authoritarians denied it. And then that's what led to its spread. And America came in with people like Dr. Fauci saying, no, here's how we fix it. And now America is the spreaders.
Yeah, I love this question. So I started Stand Up for Science in February of this year. We're a very new organization, despite the fact that, it's really picked up steam. We've got activists all across the country. And the reason why was because on day one of Trump's presidency, he was signing executive orders that clearly showed, at least to me and my colleagues, that science was going to be under attack. And it is absolutely, to your point, a feature of authoritarian and fascist regimes to go after independent centers of thought that challenge the viewpoints of the regime. And so that's what we're seeing with science, right? Like the second that a government dictates what biological sex is, incorrectly, by the way, it is incorrect in the executive order. Like that's when we start to see, in 1984, this idea of like, you don't believe your eyes and you don't believe your ears, like you believe what the regime says. Like that's what we're really getting into. And it is very reminiscent of like Lysenkoism in, the Soviet Union, that they didn't believe in heritability, and it caused a famine that killed millions of people across the USSR and China. And so, there are these things like people often ask me, what does science funding have to do with democracy? And at the end of the day, science, particularly the way that we do it in America, is this really cool expression of freedom of speech. Like it's First Amendment rights, right? Like being allowed to ask questions and being allowed to freely explore the world around us and nature and, like Earth and space is a part of a healthy democracy. And the second that the government starts saying, no, you can't ask those questions, and this is actually what the truth is when we get into some really hot water. And so that's why I think that, this question of what does science have to do with democracy and like, why is this such a feature of authoritarianism? Like, this is how we're seeing it play out. And having read a history book, like this has happened before.
Colette, call to action. What can people do who are watching this, who don't just want to be on the sidelines and want to help? What are you urging people to do?
Yeah, so go to our website, standupforscience.net. We are asking people to sign your name individually to endorse these articles of impeachment that we helped write. Representative Haley Stevens was the one who brought them forth. We worked with her team for about 2 months to get them exactly right. Sign your name to endorse them. You can also pay $3 and we will hand deliver a rubber duck that we call quackograms to your House representative to let them know that, you want them to impeach Impeach the Quack. We've had about 4,000 or so people buy these, and we really just want to flood the zone with the ducks. You can also use the really super easy tool on our website to call and leave a message or, talk with your representative. We've got a script for you, and keep an eye out, sign up for our emails, help us, if you donate just a little bit, it really does help us keep up the pressure. We're a new organization and we're trying to do the best that we can. So really appreciate the support.
Colette Delawalla, CEO of Stand Up for Science. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.